the Fears and Studio Underdog Gimlet. I've been very excited for this day to do a review because I own one and Terry owns one, and now they're both mine. So British Watchmakers Day has come and gone. It was an amazing day on the 8th of March, taking place at Lindley Hall in Westminster. All manner of British watch brands had special editions, but I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the most talked about, the most hyped, maybe most hyped watch of 2025 is the Gimlet. The watch named after the lime and gin, or vodka actually, cocktail made by two titans of the British watchmaking industry, Fears and Studio Underdog. Honestly, they've knocked it out of the park with this release, and I've been very excited for it ever since we first received the email about it back in January. Why is it called the Gimlet? Well, apparently, ever since, even before the inception of Studio Underdog, Richard Bentz went to Nicholas Bowman-Scargill to talk about collaborating on a watch. I know this because they talked us through the entire history in a little talk at the Gimlet launch event that I went to. By the way, met some amazing people there. I saw Britt, I met Andrew Morgan, I met Adrian Barker. I was one of very few people who got an invitation to attend this event with a guest list like that.
You met the guy from the Vamps.
I did indeed. Throw that photo up. James McVeigh. James, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'd seen interviews with you talking about your watches so many times, but not gonna lie, I was slightly fanboying over Adrian and I forgot who you are, so my apologies. But thank you for following me on Instagram. So yeah, got a full talk through of what the Gimlet is and why it's called the Gimlet. So apparently, the first time Nicholas and Richard Bentz met, they drank gimlets and it became a staple of whenever they'd meet up. So when they were deciding the theme of their first official collaboration, they wanted something cocktail based, something British cocktail based. Apparently Nicholas suggested the gin and tonic and they went, no, that's a bit bland. So Richard suggested the Gimlet, and here it is. So what are the specs? It's been long enough. What are the specs? Terry, do your drawery thing. It is powered by a Sellita SW210-1, so it is a manual wind watch. It has a 28,800 beat per hour movement with a power reserve of 42 hours. Case dimensions are 38mm in diameter and 12mm thick, but it actually wears, as it's a cushion case, it wears a lot slimmer than that would suggest. Lug width, 20mm, I'm very happy. It's a strap beast, and a 43.5mm lug to lug. It wears very compact. It's made of 316L steel, as you'd expect, sapphire crystal. It's got a really pronounced double dome, incredible superluminova, and we will get to the lume in a bit, and 100 meters water resistance. And the strap is from the strap tailor, no break-in period, super comfortable, and it goes from 20mm down to 16mm, not an issue there. But if you have a look at the clasp, it is double stamped with Studio Underdog and the Fears cipher, and that double stamping is absolutely sick. I could not be happier. What is very cool as well is if you've ever bought a Fears, you will have received a card that is an invitation to the Fears Watch Owners Club. This is open to anyone who owns a Fears, all the way from 1846 to modern day, and that grants you an invitation to the Fears Watch Owners Club. One might have thought, because this is a collaboration and it's below Fears' general price of entry, that you might not have received that invitation, but you absolutely have. So the invitations are signed by the secretary of the Fears Owners Club and a friend of mine, Richard France. And honestly, I just think the fact that you can sign up and you do get your own membership number with a membership card and your own little enamel pin badge, which I've got my mum's actually because she has an Aurora. I just think that's such a great detail, which, considering the price of this watch, is fairly spectacular. Now, what is the price of this watch? It's £1,000, dead on. 1000.00. No pennies, £1,000. And that sounds like a lot when you're talking about a Studio Underdog. For example, the Studio Underdog watch this is based on, the Studio Underdog 02 series, their field watch, which has the same sort of dual layer sapphire dial, is £800 or thereabouts, if I'm remembering correctly. But let's come at this from the other direction. There's also a Fears. Now the Fears that has this case, the 38mm Brunswick, starts at around about £3,000 for the polar white. And this case was entirely redesigned to accommodate the much, much deeper movement. So the fact that they had to fully redesign the case is insane when you consider the fact that this watch is £1,000, which is a third of the normal Brunswick 38 price. Now, obviously, it doesn't have the Le Jour Parade D100 movement like the Brunswick 38 has. It has the Sellita SW210-1, so it's a less expensive movement, but honestly, it still looks great, and it's also an entirely new dial made for this watch. And let's talk about that dial. The typeface was designed by Lee, an absolutely incredible designer. Can't remember what the typeface is called, but it was designed for this watch, and it's gorgeous. So it's a mix of little batons and Arabic numerals in this cool sort of vintage inspired font. It's wonderful. What you will see is all of the dial elements are floating on the backdrop. So they all cast shadows on the backdrop, and it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I love it. And also the hands, the hour hand and the minute hand, are both skeletonized in the trademark Fears pipette shape. It's a little motif that you will notice on, if you actually look for it, on every single Fears watch, and it's gorgeous. So the hands are the Fears pipette. It's got a full minute track, train track, minute track, which is nice and vintage inspired, and it's got the screws in the dial to hold it all together that you will be familiar with from the 02 series. So there's little touches from the 02 series and the Brunswick 38, and it creates something that is better than either the Brunswick 38 Polar White that this is most similar to, or the 02 series. So it takes elements of both and makes something greater, which is the essence of a great collaboration. If you look on the side, it does have an onion crown, and I would have liked to see some like personalization on the onion crown, because if you get a Studio Underdog, it does have the Studio Underdog logo. If you get a Fears, it does have the Fears logo. So it is a stock onion crown. I get why they've done that. Like, you would, just like the clasp, you would have ideally had to have both logos on the crown. You can't just put one because it's both brands. So I get why they've done it, but I would have liked to see something on there, even if it's just a little lime. But remember, this watch is £1,000, so there had to be some compromise somewhere. Turn the watch over, case back's really simple, and I really like the case back. It's just a little lime wedge. We've got to talk about the lume. It's spectacular. The lume is amazing. And when you buy this watch, you get a little Fears and Studio Underdog branded pouch. The packaging is actually very pleasant. It doesn't have a proper box or anything, but it does have its own custom travel pouch. But what you do also get, a picture of the Gimlet. It's a very nice card picture, and I got mine signed by Nicholas, founded Fears, Richard, who founded Studio Underdog, and the main designers from both of their teams, Magnus and Lee. All four of those people are lovely people, but they even went to the trouble of looming the picture. Terry, torch. Light. How cool is that, guys? They even went through the trouble of doing that. And like, I've got lights on. Right, and now Terry. How insane is that? Honestly, guys, other than the tiniest niggle about the crown, there isn't a single thing I would change about this watch. And as a reviewer, I always have to think of some tiny constructive thing, and I completely understand why the crown is the way it is, and I do somewhat like the crown the way it is. Absolutely, I like the crown the way it is. I just think I would have preferred it with a little amount of customization, but there is not a single other thing I would change about this watch. I love it. As I said, they only made 200. They sold out in every single one. I got there at 6:30 to buy this watch. Granted, it turns out I didn't have to, but I had an amazing time in the queue just chatting to people, and the event started at 10 o'clock, so I was definitely very early. If you didn't get one, because it was only available at British Watchmakers Day, you're in luck, because this is becoming a collection, it would seem. It will be called the Cocktail Collection. They won't do another Gimlet, and I'll be pissed off if they do, but there will be other cocktail inspired watches in collaboration of Fears and Studio Underdog. So Terry, what do you think?
Well, I didn't initially want one, did I?
Nope.
I didn't go there to get one. In fact, I was late. I brought you your egg sandwich and then I went to the back of the queue.
And I pissed egg everywhere, to the point where I have now been called Egg Yourself George.
Classic.
Tee-hee.
But when I saw it on everybody's wrist, I got so jealous. It looked amazing on people. Come to the second session and I thought, I'm getting this. Queuing up at 2 o'clock and I'm getting it.
You were like the third person for the second session to get one. We queued up before the start of the second session just to get you one.
I was lucky I had an all-day pass. Shout out Studio Underdog for getting me that.
Shout out Studio Underdog for having Terry on the guest list. I got my ticket through the Alliance, of which we are a part, so my ticket was through them. Terry was on the guest list with Studio Underdog, and good thing he was, because Gimlet for Terry.
And I love it.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Studio Underdog and Fears for their amazing line system, where if you were in line, they had a certain amount of lime wedges that they gave out to people, and if you had a lime wedge, you were guaranteed a watch. Obviously, you had to give over the lime wedge once you bought your watch. Great system, really well organised, guys, and done with a lot of integrity as well. Apparently, no one was getting them early or anything like that, so a lot of integrity, really good.
If we're doing shout-outs, shout out Ristopia.
Shout out Ristopia for this little guy.
The man, the myth, the legends.
Yeah, because I said I wasn't too keen on the mission to Maidenhead because of the Union flag, so he obviously gives us the first thing he saw in his house with a Union flag on it and said to put it in the background of videos. So we're doing it! Shout out Bamford, the little Bamford figurine in the back. Guys, we're building a set.
It's getting a bit messy back there.
It is getting a bit messy back there. Should we tone it down? What should we remove? What do you think of the Gimlet? Go down in the comments, let us know. Whilst you're down there, why not like, subscribe, ding that bell icon so you never miss another video, and why not click that join button, support the channel directly, just like all the wonderful people on screen did now. They are the best people in the world. And do you know who else is amazing? Everyone who said hello to me at British Watchmakers Show, and who said hello to you. A lot of you guys said hello. And you're also amazing if you've reached this point in the video, so thank you very much, and watch yourselves.